So welcome, Adam and Moira. I had the privilege of meeting these guys just early on today, and the story of what they do as far as their charity that they're going to talk about is amazing. So to start with, would you like to give us a sort of an update of what you guys do?
Thank you, Paul. First question is, Ivan, where's the fireplace? I thought this was a fire chat thing. Thanks. That was great listening to these two guys. Obviously, really passionate and excited about the work you do. And I think that mirrors what eManaged does. So a little bit about Cottage by the Sea. Some of you might know we've been in this community now for 136 years in operating in the same space to help vulnerable children, disadvantaged kids, kids who have been through various forms of trauma or disadvantage. It's an amazing place. We've grown massively since COVID. We're now inviting over 2,000 children a year through our doors. We've just opened a brand new facility called Riptide. We were talking about it earlier, somewhere Vance Joy stayed as a child. We knocked down his building and rebuilt it. That gives us the capacity of another 700 children a year through our life-changing service. The work that Cottage does is backed up by Deakin University, who we're very lucky to have had a 10-year relationship with, and they do a lot of impact studies on the work that we do. If you'd ever like to have a look at that, jump onto our website, Cottage by the Sea.
Great, and just amazing what you guys do, and the size of how many children you actually touch was, for me, amazing. You're a customer of eManaged, but you didn't used to be. So tell me a bit more about what life was like when you didn't have somebody there looking after your IT needs.
Thanks. A good question. I giggle because I've always been pretty crap in this space of IT. That's the truth. Before eManaged, I'd say it probably felt like a bit of an unknown quantity. For me, IT was something that happened in the background. I'd ask somebody to have a look at it if it wasn't really working. I knew I should do some more. I knew, for example, our backup system was rubbish. I mean, it was pretty much non-operational. If we'd had a problem then, hopefully we wouldn't have been one of those 60% that closed, but we would have been in trouble. I was always busy. I got on with my job, and I just kind of hoped. But the time of just kind of hoping is long past us now, I'd say. We sort of had a relationship with a friend, I'd say, that looked after our IT. Great people, did a lot at cost for us, but I think it kind of left us behind the curve somewhat, and that could have compromised us. It left us in a bit of a dangerous position. So very happy that we've moved beyond that now. Those days are gone. Like I say, you can't just hope. Is there something you wanted to add to that, Moira?
I would just say that we were very reactive at the time and reluctant always to be calling on the people that were kind of doing us a favour with our IT. So, yeah, it did lead to some concern that we were leaving ourselves exposed.
If we hadn't have switched, I don't reckon we'd have even had two-factor or multi-factor authentication in place now. We wanted to see if there was any uncomfortable shifts in their seats there when I said that.
Sorry. And that's MFA is a very good point, and for those of you out there, MFA is a great way for you to protect yourself if you're not using MFA. Can you give us an example of when IT really wasn't working for you, and what were the issues around? Was it sort of money, frustration? What was it?
For me, it's always frustration, but there were a couple of things that's happened. Somebody's email got hijacked. And then another time there was something called a credit card gateway that was compromised. But Moira will know more about that than I will.
Well, we got cyber criminals were using bots on our website, which was obviously easy to do. We don't sell a product. They were able to do small transaction amounts and thousands and thousands of them at a time. So every time they did one, we'd get an email. So this was on a day-to-day basis. It was a nightmare. It didn't really cost us anything except a lot of time and energy to solve it. And we just we kind of realized then that we didn't know what we should know about what was going on with IT and our systems.
Very good. Another, I do a lot of these events, and I've done specific events for non-profit. The scumbags that are cyber criminals are really targeting charities and non-profit organizations. It's the same reason that, small business get attacked, but you guys have such personal, financial, with donors and stuff like that. As far as, user behavior and sort of training your staff, have you seen a difference since sort of that's sort of occurred?
Yeah, unequivocally, we've seen a change. There's definitely been that uplift. But I still think there's a need to be proactive, even when you start on this process. I think, look, life's busy, people are busy, work is busy for everyone, and that's one of the major problems. I do occasionally gently prod the team in the space of, the weekly cyber training modules that we get through the eManaged setup. And look, there's no reason not to do them. They take literally a few minutes, and it constantly presents a reminder for people to be vigilant. And what was it? 90% of cyber crime comes through a human mistake, a human error. And so what I'm beginning to see now, because we've been doing this for a number of months, is that the shift is that it's becoming part of everybody's day-to-day usual practice. And that's where you want to get, where everybody is constantly being vigilant. And so those prods, what we're doing now with these cyber training refreshers, is really working. So, Moira, I'm sure you've got some other things.
Thanks, Adam. So we have a lot of volunteers, and the demographic of the volunteers is they're elderly. And a lot of elderly people are really susceptible to cyber attacks and to not really quite understanding the whole deal with the emails and being suspicious. But since the user shield has been implemented, even the volunteers are running into the office and saying, look, this looks really suspicious. Can we check it out? And things like that. So everyone's more confident and aware and ready to pick it up and accuse it of being fake.
Yeah, and this training shouldn't be to sort of highlight people doing wrong and highlight them being stupid. It's there to help, and hopefully, if you communicate that to your employees, that we're not here to catch you out. This is sort of a proper training equipment program. Look, you moved to Microsoft 365 and to Teams. How have you found that sort of journey? What have you sort of seen speed increases, happier employees? How have you seen that change?
If it's all right, Paul, I might talk about what I hope to achieve from it, because again, it comes back to my head being buried in the sand, I guess, in that, look, I knew there was this issue. I knew it was growing. You just need to look at those stats. I was well aware of those stats before you showed them to us tonight, Paul. But I knew the issue was there, but my skill set was certainly way behind the curve. So for me, it was about trying to get peace of mind that we were protected when I knew deep down that we weren't. It'll be something different for Moira, another one of the management team at Cottage. So,
well, we had a lot of scattered files everywhere, and we just, when we moved to SharePoint, everything seemed to fall into a place. So we knew we organized everything more efficiently, and everyone became more cyber secure and cyber aware. So yeah.
Excellent. And do you guys use the sort of Copilot as well? Is that something you've started to use or been afraid to use?
Yeah, all of those things. I just wrote this down actually when I was sitting in the seat highs, and I know we're both quite passionate about what we do and this stuff as well. So yeah, that's a great question. We were a bit scared. I was quite skeptical about using it on, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was fearful. And we're talking a matter of weeks, if not maybe a month, but we've just got all of our policies and our procedures in place now. And I can tell you, we ran, or a new person in the team just ran a report to look about, and the reason I paused then was because there's new safety standards in place for working with vulnerable children, particularly in the early childhood space, because of those atrocities that went on last year. That doesn't affect Cottage directly, but we thought, how about best practice in our space as well? How can we use this new legislation, these new regulations to help us? So we ran a report, our general counsel did in Copilot, and it was quite incredible. So we looked at our policies, our procedures against the new legislation, and has suggested an incredible array of areas that we can uplift our own operation as well. And that moment, that changed for me. And we're only talking a few weeks ago. So, sorry, Moira, I know you wanted to answer this one.
Well, I can add to that. We also asked Copilot to generate a quiz from the child safety standards and the policy, so that we could test the level of knowledge and our comfort level with the staff. So, and it did, and it was pretty incredible, really.
So it is amazing, and that's amazing the way you've started to use it. And I think, no, Michael gave a wonderful sort of Copilot sort of presentation. We will start to use AI on a more regular basis as we become more comfortable with it. If you're sitting next to another business who hasn't really, I guess, addressed cybersecurity or addressed AI, what would you say to them?
That's the easiest question, I reckon, because it's where I was. Just look at the statistics. I wrote this down before you already said it, Paul, it's not a case of if, it's a case of when. So it's easier than you think. Get on the journey.
Yeah, I second that. It's very stressful when you're not sure if you've got the capability to look after yourself if something dreadful happens. So, yeah, eManaged has made it us feel a lot more comfortable and aware.
Guys, you've been wonderful. A round of applause to our Fireside people. Please take a seat. Thank you.